Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. I am your host, Chris Tutela, here to help you get to the next level of your life, of your business, of your fitness. You know how it is. We go deep into all this good stuff here, guys, just getting to the next level, and growth is the goal, right? And first off, I want to thank you guys. Anybody who's taken the time to leave a quick 5-star review or a written review. As I tell you on every show, it is the best way for us to grow, to reach more people. So thank you guys who have taken the time to do so. And if you haven't had a second to do it, if you could pause this episode right now, leave a quick 5-star review. It would mean so much to me. It would help us reach more people and potentially change more people's lives. So thank you in advance for that. Today, what I want to talk to you is about cardio, because this seems to be a hot topic these days. A lot of people are talking about it because for years, so many people were saying, like, don't do cardio. It's going to kill your gains. If you want to be jacked, if you want to be strong, you shouldn't do cardio. Then there's another camp of people who for years were saying you need to do more cardio to lose fat, and it kind of created all this confusion. And so today, I want to clear things up. I'll keep this short and sweet for you today. I'll keep it simple, to the point, so you know exactly what to do after listening to this show. So let's dive right into it today, guys. First off, let's talk about body transformation, right? Physique transformation. You're trying to look lean. You're trying to look jacked. You're trying to look shredded. Remember that the first thing that you need to dial in is your strength training. Right? Your resistance training to build muscle, that never changes. When you go into a fat loss phase, you do not need to start doing circuit training. You do not need to do a set of 100 on the deadlift and then go run around the building 100 times and come back and do 75 burpees. Don't train like that. That's just going to leave you weak. That's going to lead to you losing muscle mass, and you're going to feel like shit. So you train to get stronger. You train to build muscle. That is always how you're going to train, whether it's 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever is best for you, whatever you enjoy. Your strength training is your meat and potatoes. Now, obviously, when you build more muscle mass, that is going to increase the rate of your metabolism. It's going to help you burn more calories while at rest, right? You've heard me talk about that a million times before, so I'm not going to go too deep into it today. All right, but your strength training, your resistance training, high quality, right? No schlock, garbage, junk volume, and shitty technique. Like, we got to get all that dialed in, guys. Master your technique, master the quality of your movement, get stronger, move more weight as you go. Follow the progressive overload principle, and you will see your body start to change. Now, let's shift gears and let's start talking about cardio. See, what most people think cardio is going to do for them is that it's going to help them lose more fat. So if I want to get lean, I need to do more cardio. Not necessarily true. Now, few things to cover here. Will doing more cardio, right? When I say more cardio, if you're doing 0 right now and we start adding 3 days per week of 30 minutes of cardio to your routine, will that help you lose fat? It could, right? Because you're going to be burning more calories in that window. However, if your diet sucks, you're not going to lose shit. Your diet is the thing that is going to ultimately get you lean, right? You can get shredded. Here's why I say this. Like, you can get shredded without doing any cardio if your diet is locked in. I'm not saying that's what you should do, but you could. All right? It might take you a little bit longer, but you could absolutely get shredded with just dialing in your diet, locking in, and just hitting your strength training. You could be shredded to the bone. So you don't have to do cardio to lose fat. It's not the thing that gets you to lose fat. Could it help aid in the process? Of course, right? Just because it's going to help you burn some more calories. But the thing that's going to get you lean is your diet, all right? So if your diet sucks, you're not going to get lean. Now, that looks so different for so many people, right? If you have 100 pounds to lose, stop eating shit, eat clean, eat real food, and guess what? You're going to start fat's going to start pouring off of your frame, okay? If you're a little bit more advanced or you're intermediate, you've been training for a while, you eat pretty decently, well, then we're going to have to focus on, different phases, right? And now we have to get into more of a fat loss phase. If you've been starving yourself for the last year and you've hit a plateau, well, you're probably going to have to feed yourself a little bit more, get more calories in, clean calories, and then start to reduce and pull calories back a little bit. If you've been eating like an animal, like a fucking gavone for the last 2 years, well, now it's time to get into a calorie deficit, right? Being in a calorie deficit, meaning you're burning more than you're consuming daily, is what will get you to lose body fat, right? It's the only thing, right? Now, like I said, if you've been starving yourself and you've been in a drastic calorie deficit for so long, that means your hormones are probably out of whack, your sleep probably sucks, you probably lost muscle. So that's why you would have to eat more calories now for a brief period of time before pulling them back again. That's why it's likely why you've hit that plateau. All right. But if you've been eating like an animal and now it's time to get into a fat loss phase, all right, we have to get into a slight calorie deficit. And what we can do is we can increase that calorie deficit either through activity or through tightening up your diet even more as you progress through it. Now, I don't like to go beyond a 12-week fat loss phase for the reasons I just mentioned, right? Like you're going to feel tired. You're going to feel like shit. You might start to lose muscle mass. You might start to feel depleted. So 12 weeks is like the extent. So I have gone 16 weeks before. And I've made progress, but I was also 21, right? So as you get a little bit older, things change. I'm 36 now. I feel like 12, maybe. This year I did push it to, I think, 14 weeks. But that was it. I was capped there. But anyway, you want to get into that calorie deficit and follow a specific fat loss phase for a window of time, all right? The time that it's likely going to take you to get there is anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks, depending on how much fat you have to lose. And if we need to go a little bit outside of that window, take it to 14 weeks or so, I'm cool with that. All right? So that's how you get lean. If you want to supplement your strength training with cardio a couple days per week to help aid in that process, get lean a little bit faster in that window, great. Now, that's how cardio could help in the fat loss process. However, what I will always tell you and recommend is that you should look at cardio as a way of enhancing health versus a method of fat loss. All right? Because when you start to view cardio as the solution to fat loss and you just start doing more and more just kind of random cardio, then you could start sacrificing muscle. You could just it would be like doing random shit with strength training too, right? You wouldn't want to do that. You want to have a plan in place. So when you look at cardio, look at it as a means of enhancing your health, a means of enhancing longevity, okay? We know there's so many studies now on how the different adaptations occur within the heart based on the intensity of this type of cardio or conditioning that you're doing, right? So we know that strength training, for example, yields a different adaptation to the heart versus like zone 2 cardio, right? There's a different type of change that occurs within the heart with one versus the other, okay? So that is one of the reasons why zone 2 cardio, you're hearing about it more and more these days, is becoming more popular because it is so beneficial due to the adaptation that occurs within the heart, right? It's like that eccentric hypertrophy, it's considered, right? Where the heart almost kind of expands like a balloon that's filled with water for a long period of time. Because what you're doing is the heart, if you're doing zone 2 cardio, let's talk about what that is for a second. So you take 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. So, in beats per minute. So you take 60 to 60, let's call it 65 or 70%. That's probably a better range there. 65 to 70% of your max heart rate. And now you just maintain that heart rate for 30 to 60 minutes. And you do that 3-4 times per week, as much as you could kind of fit it in. This won't necessarily, this will actually aid in your recovery. It's going to help with health, obviously, like we just talked about, overall health and longevity. And what you're doing there is, since you're going to kind of be in that steady state, the heart is going to be basically saturated with blood, right? Your heart rate's not going to go too high. We're only going 65, 70% for an extended period of time. So the heart will be saturated in blood. So think of that as like filling up a balloon. I just heard Joel Jameson talking about this. And if you haven't read his book, Ultimate MMA Conditioning, that's one of the probably the best book written on conditioning. And I think having the word MMA in there kind of confuses people, because he did write that book, based on fighters and all that, but it's really for anyone, whether you're an athlete or an individual, just a regular individual just looking to get healthy. But read that book. There's so much great information there. Joel is a genius with this stuff. But anyway, it's like I heard him talk about filling up a balloon, right, with water and just kind of keeping it filled for a while. When you empty out the balloon's a little bit stretched. It's a little bit more stretched than it was. And that's kind of the same adaptation that occurs within the heart. So that's why your stroke volume will improve, your resting heart rate goes down, your HRV will increase, your heart rate variability. These things will improve when you add in zone 2 cardio. My recommendation is to do zone 2 3 days per week, and just simply do what you enjoy, right? Like, I mean, there's so many different things that you could do to get there and to just kind of and do a nice steady state for a period of time, but do what you enjoy, man. I mean, hiking, biking, you could do swimming, whatever your thing is that you enjoy. Do that, right? Because I think that's one of the things, it's one of the key focuses when we're talking about longevity here, is adding in especially the zone 2 cardio. All right. Now, I know you meatheads out there might be thinking like, well, isn't that going to kill my gains, bro? No, it's not. Right. And listen, I used to think that way too. If I'm being honest, I used to think like, fuck, man, if I do too much cardio, I'm going to lose muscle. And no, that's not necessarily true. You're not going to lose muscle mass. Listen, if you're a physique competitor, you're at that level, like you're competing in bodybuilding, like could it affect you? Yeah, like you could sacrifice that a little bit, but for the general population, like, what does it matter, right? How much do you think you're really sacrificing? You're not going to lose anything, most likely. So as long as, of course, your diet's dialed in, your training is dialed in. If you went all cardio, then yeah, it's going to affect you, right? But what we're talking about is sprinkling in a couple days per week of zone 2. You're only going to benefit, especially when we're talking about health, right? So no, you're not going to lose muscle. Don't start to sweat that stuff. Just make sure you do it, because obviously I think we all want to live a little bit longer, right? So I think you should also kind of sprinkle in, your higher intensity conditioning stuff as well. So let's say you do 2 days per week of zone 2, and then you sprinkle in your higher intensity stuff too. Now, the thing is too, guys, with because obviously 10,000 steps became a pretty big thing as well, 10,000 steps per day. And a lot of people are considering that as zone 2. I don't know if you're going to get your heart rate high enough to consider that zone 2, right? Because again, we have to get 65 to 70% of your max heart rate. And so walking, obviously 10,000 steps per day, that's beneficial. I think that should be in addition to your actual zone 2 cardio, because you're not going to get your heart rate up high enough. So 10,000 steps per day, every day, that should just be a staple in your lifestyle, but don't necessarily look at that as cardio. That's really low intensity. Again, is it beneficial? Yes. Is that also linked to health, lifespan, increased lifespan, longevity? Yes. Do that. 10,000 steps per day, 3 days per week of conditioning or cardio, 3 days per week of strength training. Now you got everything dialed in. And remember, the cardio, for me, I do jujitsu. So a couple days per week, jujitsu kind of serves as my cardio, right? I also throw in a zone 2 day. But just look at what your look at your training schedule. What do you like to do? Do you do other sports? Do you like to play soccer on the weekends? Whatever it is, right? That could absolutely count towards your cardio. So don't overthink it too much. Just make sure you're getting that heart rate up, and we are focused on some layer here of conditioning, because that's going to be one of the keys to health, to longevity, to lifespan. So that's just something I want you guys to consider today. And it also will aid in your recovery too, right? When you're increasing that aerobic base, that's going to help you recover a little bit faster as well. So just keep that in mind, right? If you're sore all the time from training, like that's not great either. Like I remember the days where I used to train after a leg day, like I literally would struggle taking a shit for like 3 days after I trained my legs. Like I want no part of that these days. Like I want to be able to do jujitsu. I want to be able to play with my son. I want to be able to just fucking live my life and not be in pain all day. So if you're still there, if you're still young and you're still training that way, more power to you. Enjoy it. I think there's definitely value and lessons to those hard workouts and to those days, to the not being able to walk for several days afterwards. But as you get a little bit older, your priorities start to shift and change a little bit. So hopefully you hear what I'm saying and make that consideration. But anyway, the whole point is, the walking, the zone 2 cardio, these things are only going to help aid in your recovery as well and help you feel a little bit better. So hopefully this helps, guys. I told you I'd keep it short and sweet today. Just keep it right to the point. So I hope that this makes sense. And the most importantly, I hope that you guys start incorporating more cardio into your routine, but not necessarily for fat loss. Again, yes, it could aid in the process, but is it the thing that's going to get you lean? No, your diet is. Cardio will help aid in health, in longevity, and that is how you should view it. So I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this episode helpful, if you could share the show with somebody who might get something out of it, I would appreciate it. And we could help change the lives of more people. We could do that together. So thank you, Iron Life Nation. As always, I appreciate you, and I will catch you next week on another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. Peace.